So, is this the part where I make some sort of morphin time joke? Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetypes are a real funny thing. Sometimes they're built from the ground up around a singular concept, such as elemental heroes, or destiny heroes, or vision heroes, or evil heroes, or masked heroes, or Oscillo heroes. Sometimes they form around an iconic monster from the past that didn't have support at first, resulting in fun and mid-tier decks based on our favourite anime characters. Or sometimes they become the most broken thing ever by mistake. Whatever the case, archetypes generally have one thing in common. They all focus on monsters, as has been the case with every archetype I've reviewed so far in this series. Which is why it's time to buck that trend with the Metalmorph archetype, an archetype based around a trap card. What will they think of next? An archetype based around Mystical Space Typhoon? Oh. Originally, Metalmorph was a card called Magic Metal Force in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, used by Bandit Keith in Duelist Kingdom to transform his monster into a bigger, magic-proof metal version, and Joey later did the same thing to his Red Eyes. As is often the case, what was a product of the anime became a product in real life, starting with a couple cards in the early 2000s and then getting a full support wave in the 2020s, and all of those cards coming with varying levels of success. And that's why we're talking about them today. The Metalmorph archetype was originally meant to be part of a Duel Monsters triple archetype feature video by me, but upon realizing that this archetype was much bigger than the other two candidates even put together, I decided to give Metalmorph its own dedicated spotlight. Because it's metal, it's very shiny. So what better place to start than the beginning? Metalmorph is the card that the archetype is named after, and it's a normal trap with this effect. Target one face-up monster on the field, equip this card to that target. It gains 300 attack and defense. If it attacks, it gains attack equal to half the attack of the attack target during damage calculation only. This card is truly remarkable, largely because of its age. This card came out in the OCG in 1999 and was released in the TCG in 2007. It took them 8 years to boot up Google Translate? Don't worry though, you could have gotten the card 7 years early by getting the premium edition of Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories, which came with Metalmorph as one of the 3 promo cards, alongside Harpy's Pet Dragon and a card we'll actually be talking about soon. Even back 20 years ago, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was still unfairly pay to win. Let's just take a step back and acknowledge Metalmorph for what it is. A card from some of the earliest years of this game gave an effect that almost guaranteed the monster equipped with it would win any attack it declared so long as Metalmorph stayed on the field until it was removed by spell and trap removal, which was a lot more limited back in those days, and this came out years before cards like Ally of Justice Hulk that were made to disappoint thousands of children worldwide. That's honestly insane. If you can manage to equip 2 Metalmorphs to your monster, you'll have a permanent honest effect on your attacking monster for as long as those cards remain on the field, and there are no restrictions to the monsters you can target with Metalmorph. This is a really cool card that honestly still isn't that bad today. It's been power crept since, of course, but all things considered, it's a good card that has stood the test of time, with an effect that aged like reinforced metal. In the duel that introduced Metalmorph, we got a couple of monsters that were enhanced by the Magic Metal Force. Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon and Metal Zoa. They're both level 8 dark monsters. Red Eyes has 2800 attack and Metal Zoa has 3000 attack, and they pretty much share the exact same effect. That being that they can't be normal summoned or set, and must first be special summoned from the deck by attributing the original monster, Red Eyes Black Dragon or Zoa, equipped with Metalmorph. The positives of these cards is that they're some of the only monsters in the game that can special summon themselves from the deck. They give you 100 more attack points during your opponent's turn than the original monsters equipped with Metalmorph. They're targets for trade-in, they're targets for Allure of Darkness. They can be searched by Dogu and single purchase, which will then make them good targets for Pot of Generosity, because they can only be summoned from the deck. They can run over a Shape Snatch boosted by limiter removal. They gain extra attack points from the Mystic Plasma Zone field spell, and if you equip them with the Metalmorph trap card, they can still utilize its power with no restrictions. They're also very bad cards, and you should never run them in any deck ever. Now, in case you couldn't get your hands on Metalmorph, given that it released as a super rare in its TCG outing, Konami then released Rare Metalmorph, which came out as an Ultimate Rare. Whoops. It also came out in 2004, 3 years before the release of the original Metalmorph in the TCG. Perhaps Common Metalmorph would have been a more accurate name. Activate this card by targeting one machine-type monster on the field. It gains 500 attack. Once, negate a spell effect that targets that monster. When that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. The only benefits to this card is a one-time negation of a very specific card type on a singular monster and 200 extra attack points during your opponent's turn compared to the original Metalmorph. and the trade-off is that it gets rid of the actually good effect of Metalmorph. I assume this card is called Rare Metalmorph because people rarely use it. I am aware of Red Eye's Darkness Metal Dragon and Darkness Metal the Dragon of Dark Steel, but these cards have nothing to do with the original Metalmorph trap card, so they're not getting more than a mention. These metals are not going to become part of this alloy. For the next 5,000 years, there was nothing about Metalmorph. Bandit Keith himself got a little bit of support, but his most famous card was ignored and left in the scrap heap. Until 2024, where, out of nowhere, we got yet another wave of Duel Monsters era nostalgia support. The focus of this was Max Metalmorph, another normal trap card with this effect. Tribute one face-up monster. Special summon one monster that cannot be normal summoned or set and mentions Max Metalmorph from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Then you can equip this card to it with the following effect. The equipped monster gains 400 attack and defense, it cannot be destroyed by spell or monster effects, also your opponent cannot target it with monster effects or spell cards or effects. You can only activate one Max Metalmorph per turn. It took them 20 years, but they finally installed a worthy patch for Metalmorph. It summons your monsters from anywhere except banishment, which is automatically a plus, and the equip effect is actually great. This is fantastic protection unless you're fighting the one guy who uses Mirror Force or Sakuretsu Armor in 2025. Oh, and there's a little bit of attack points. Whatever. Only being able to activate one per turn is more of a nuisance than you'd think, as this card is actually quite easy to search and set up, but there are ways to get around that. Obviously you're going to run 3, this is what your deck is built around. So, before we talk about the new metal-clad monsters, I think we should cover the cards that let you set them up in the process. Metal Illusionist is a retrain of Joey's Copycat card, the card he used to copy Metalmorph during the anime duel in the first place. I see what you did there. It's a level 1 light spellcaster with no stats and this effect. Increase this card's level by 4 during your opponent's turn only. You can only use each of the following effects of Metal Illusionist once per turn. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can set one Metalmorph trap from your deck. Then, if Max Metalmorph is in your graveyard, you can draw one card. You can declare one other monster type. This card becomes that type until the end of your opponent's turn. This is a very good set of effects for this deck. The original level makes Illusionist a target for 1/1, and the level increase primes it as a target for Max Metalmorph. Same thing with the type declaration effect. The search is just like, well, yeah, obviously good, and it's quite easy to set up a Max Metalmorph in the graveyard to enable your draw. Illusionist is a staple and needs to be ran in multiples. Zoa the Fiendish Beast is up next, a retrain of Zoa with the same stats and level, except now it has an effect. If your opponent controls a monster, you can normal summon this card without tributing. You can only use each of the following effects of Zoa the Fiendish Beast once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can special summon this card in defense position. Then, if Max Metalmorph is not in your graveyard, your opponent can special summon one monster from their hand. During your main phase, you can set one Metalmorph trap from your deck. It's an objective upgrade over the original, not that it was a high bar. The normal summon is a novelty, but the other two effects are very important. Regarding the special summoning condition, it's quite easy to get Max Metalmorph into your graveyard on your turn anyway, so you don't need to worry about your opponent. In addition, setting a Metalmorph trap card from your deck is a simple and easy way to get your plays set up to make use of this new Zoa that you've got on the field. Frankly, there's no real downside to this card, and I like to run 2. Technically we're going out of order in terms of stat line, but this is the latest card released for the Metalmorph archetype, so here's Red Eye's Metal Claw Dragon. At this point, Red Eyes has more metal forms than it does regular forms. It has the same stats as the regular Red Eyes, except now it has an effect. You can activate Metalmorph trap cards the turn they were set. You can only use each of the following effects of Red Eye's Metal Claws Dragon once per turn. You can send one face down card you control to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summoned, and you have Max Metalmorph in your field or graveyard, you can add one Metalmorph trap from your deck or graveyard to your hand. This is how you make turn 1 plays. Ideally, you'll send Max Metalmorph from your field to the graveyard to special summon Red Eyes, add another one from your deck to your hand, set it, and then put a Metalmorph monster on the field immediately. This play primes the draw effect of Illusionist, it takes out the downside from Zoa's effect, it's the perfect opening play for the Metalmorph archetype. Run 3 Red Eyes if you want to make your turns with any semblance of speed. Okay, we've downloaded all necessary updates and ran the troubleshooting. Let's have a look at what you're actually summoning with the new Metalmorph. Metal Zoa X is the retrain of Metal Zoa, being a level 8 dark machine with 3000 attack, 2300 defense and the following effects. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first be special summoned with Max Metalmorph that was activated by tributing a level 5 or higher Fiend monster. You can reveal this card in your hand, set one Metalmorph trap from your deck, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. You can only use this effect of Metal Zoa X once per turn. Twice per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect or spell card or effect, quick effect, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy it. Already coming out swinging, Metal Zoa X presents us with a lot to look at. First off, you don't need the original Zoa, just a level 5 or higher Fiend monster, like Illusionist or Fiendish Beast. Second off, it shuffles itself from the hand back into the deck, to put a Metalmorph trap card on the field, a fantastic way to unbrick your hand and set up your plays. The on-field monster destruction effect is also pretty nice. I mean, it's fairly limited in its scope of targets and activation requirements, but frankly, anything is an improvement over the original Metal Zoa. And are you really going to say no to targeted monster destruction if it was offered for free, and up to twice per turn? Metal Zoa X is worth a spot or two in the deck, but it should really be your plan C. That's because plan A is Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon, a massive level 8 dragon with 3400 attack. It has the exact same summoning condition as Metal Zoa X, except now you need to tribute a level 5 or higher dragon type monster. It also has the same ability to set Metalmorph trap cards from the deck by shuffling itself in from the hand. The unique part is that when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can negate the activation. Then you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of one attack position monster your opponent controls. You can only use each effect of Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon once per turn. Can you see why it's plan A? Same deal with Metal Zoa X, tributing Illusionist or Red Eyes Metal Claw but with higher stats and a better on-field effect. It's the deck's Omni Negate, and it can potentially deal a substantial amount of burn damage, showing its roots as a Red Eyes monster. Because this deck has large potential for recovery, seeing as you can summon your monsters from the deck and graveyard, I'm fine with only running 2 copies of Full Metal Dragon, but you can do as you wish. Now that's the end of the anime Metalmorph monsters, but there's still one monster left to talk about, and you'd better believe it's a Joey reference. Metal Flame Swordsman is a level 7 fire machine with 2500 attack, a badass name, and the same summoning condition as the previous 2 monsters, except now it requires tributing a level 5 or higher warrior monster with max Metalmorph. As for the unique effects, you can reveal this card in your hand, add one card that mentions max Metalmorph from your deck to your hand, except Metal Flame Swordsman, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. You can only use this effect of Metal Flame Swordsman once per turn. Each time your opponent activates a card or effect, this card gains 300 attack and inflicts 500 damage to your opponent when that card/effect resolves. There's a lot to talk about here. There's no exclusive monster in the Archetype to tribute for this card except for Illusionist, but in a way, that makes Swordsman the prime target to use Illusionist for, seeing as Zoa and Red Eyes have dedicated tribute targets. The search effect is a lot more inclusive than the last 2 monsters, giving you access to the deck's spell card and any monster you might need at the time. The on-field effect is very unique compared to the other 2 Metalmorph beasts, being a Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon type burn effect, as well as a decent boost to the card's attack points, and both of these will become problems very quickly with just how many card effects get activated per turn these days. Metal Flame Swordsman is one of the only Metalmorph monsters I'd argue is a 3-off, because it makes for a fantastic search card as well as a dangerous field presence. The deck's singular spell card is Incoming Machine. Add one monster that mentions max Metalmorph or one Metalmorph trap from your deck or graveyard to your hand. If you control a Metalmorph trap, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one defense position monster your opponent controls, change it to face-up attack position. You can only use this effect of Incoming Machine once per turn. Every archetype needs a spell card that searches the whole archetype, and this is it for Metalmorph. The first effect is as simple as anything, and the second effect is a direct reference to when Bandit Keith used Stop Defense to force Axe Raider into attack position so he could attack it with Metal Zoa for game. A little on the nose there, aren't you, Konami? It's a wonder they didn't put Metal Zoa in the trap hole of Spike's card art. At least they gave this thing an actually useful effect. Anyways, run this card at 3, searching is good, and the second effect could potentially speed up your wins. But just in case you weren't Metalmorphing hard enough already, we have an alternative for you to look at. Flame Coating Metalmorph is a trap card with this effect. Tribute one face-up monster that mentions max Metalmorph. Special summon one monster that cannot be normal summoned or set and mentions max Metalmorph from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Then you can equip this card to it with the following effect. If the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send this card to the graveyard instead. You can only activate one Flame Coating Metalmorph per turn. At first, you may think that this card is worse or gimmicky compared to max Metal, but it does actually have a use. It can summon any Metalmorph monster by tributing any Metalmorph related monster. So you can summon Full Metal Dragon off of Fiendish Beast, or Flame Swordsman off of Red Eyes Metal Claw. My favourite uses of it is to tribute Illusionist on the opponent's turn if it had its effects negated on my turn, taking away a dead card with no stats and turning it into a useful metal monster. Sure, the protection is worse, but it still keeps your Metalmorph monsters around for a little bit longer, and it can even protect against destructive traps as well. Flame Coating Metalmorph is definitely worth a spot or two in the deck. The final piece of this machine we need to examine is Time Engine, a reference to the Time Machine trap card used in the Joey vs Bandit Keith duel. You know, I can't tell if having to strictly adhere to anime references makes making nostalgia support easier or much harder. Anyways, this card is always treated as a Metalmorph card. If a monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, target one of them, special summon it, then if it is a level 5 or higher machine monster, and you have another Metalmorph trap on your field or in your graveyard, you can destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible. Then, you can inflict damage to them equal to the summoned monster's original attack. That's just icing on top of your Metalmorph cake. If your monsters get destroyed by a trap or by Master of Oz in battle, this is your insurance. A field nuke and potentially a big burn, very on theme for the deck, and it's searchable due to that Metalmorph clause. Time Engine isn't a crucial part of the deck, but you can safely run one or two for the style. Or so you can roleplay Joey, because deep down, that's who we all aspire to be. So, how strong are these metals, and what weaknesses do they have to exploit, aside from these ones? Obviously, the deck can hit very hard. There's plenty of high attack values going around, and the burn damage can become a problem if you get Full Metal Dragon and Metal Flame Swordsman working together. The protection is pretty good too, while it's working. Max Metalmorph provides solid effect protection against the majority of the cards used in this game, so long as they can stay on the field. The consistency is also solid. There's a lot of search cards to get out the Metalmorph trap cards, you can summon the big monsters directly from your deck or from the graveyard, very rarely will you be left with an unplayable hand. However, to balance that out, like any deck that revolves around a trap card, it's slow to start. Yeah, Red Eye's Metal Claw can help alleviate that, but if you don't have that monster in your hand, you're waiting until turn 2 to get a good monster on your field with any protection. The deck also crumbles under negation. So many of my games have come to a halt because Ash Blossom fucked my search cards, then Infinite Impermanence fucked my Metal Illusionist. This deck is very fragile to interruptions. Like most anime-inspired decks, they need every combo piece to work together to make a play. If the Metalmorph trap cards get taken off of the field, your big monsters have no protection. They literally made an archetype revolving around Mystical Space Typhoon, so spell and trap removal is no joke. Also, these cards are a bit lacking in versatility. The archetype is small, so this is expected, but their options are limited. If you have all 3 Metalmorph monsters on the field, you have 1 Omni Negate, 2 targeted destructions of face-up monsters in response to effects without negation, and a decent continuous burn effect. Aside from Time Engine and changing a monster from defense to attack mode, these cards don't really do much besides straight up battle. That's very on theme for the deck, I'm not complaining, but it is a weakness, so I do have to point it out. Also, trap cards still work on them, because that's how things were in the anime, so it's how they are here. Behold, my personal deck profile. It's pretty much tailored to what I've said in this analysis with nothing to elaborate on, and I like running Trade-In and Allure of Darkness for additional draw power. What more can I really say about Metalmorph? The deck's power level is mid-tier, their plays are consistent if not overly potent, and it can be a fun time taking them out for a few games, as is the case with most good archetypes that spawn from the anime. The Metalmorph support cards were very cool to see, especially as I'm a big fan of the Joey vs Bandit Keith duel, as well as the concept of metalmorphing monsters in general. The designs of these monsters are pretty cool, seeing as now there's an actual reason for the dragons to look like big robots. And I was very happy to see the inclusion of Metal Flame Swordsman, a sign of Konami thinking outside the anime-only box. However, I think they can go much further with this concept. The deck is already good, but why not expand on the catalogue of monsters? Blue Eyes White Metal Dragon, Dark Metal Magician, Gaia the Metal Knight, or perhaps even branching into fully original monster choices. Rather than looking at this deck as a finished product already, I see it as a source of untapped potential. However, those are merely dreams for the future. As it is, it's cool to see an iconic card from the anime get a small archetype to support it, for that archetype to be on theme with the original card's playstyle, and for the support to actually be decent. So, if this is where the support for Metalmorph ends, I think it's a fine way to leave things. There's no need for us to rage against the machine. Thank you everyone for watching this latest video of Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype Analysis. It's been a good while since the last one, I know, but I've had a lot on my plate lately in regards to YouTube and general living, and now just happened to be the ideal time that I could get this video done. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe for more. I do make Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos somewhat often within my content cycle, and I've got plans to release more within the next couple of months. If you think that I've earned it, please check out my Patreon for early access to videos, special voting privileges, and perhaps a little bit more. With all that said, I think we're done here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.